Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of your UFC Hot Takes. As always, if you want to be in these videos in the future, go to my community tab, find that weekly post that I put out every single Thursday, give me a comment underneath that, and you will most likely be in the video that following Monday. I know I'm a day late. It is currently Tuesday as the time this video does come out. I promise you guys I will be more on time. This will not happen again. It just happens to be the holiday season and things are getting really busy around the Kindle MMA household. But let's not waste any more time and let's dive right into your guys' UFC hot takes. Starting off with, we have Sean Strickland whoops everybody at middleweight. Now, can he? It surely is a possibility. Beating up Adesanya that bad does prove that he can or has the potential to beat everybody else at middleweight. But does he whoop everybody at middleweight? I don't think so. To me, Sean Strickland doesn't have the style nor the chin to absolutely whoop everybody. We saw Jared Cannonier, a guy who on paper, beat Sean Strickland. We saw Cannonier just pretty much upgrade in his striking against Vettori, looked better than ever at like 39 years of age. Somehow Cannonier has found his way to improve. I don't understand how with him being that old, but if he fights Strickland again, who can say that Cannonier doesn't chin Strickland out cold? With the way he looked against Vettori, and he has power, and Strickland's chin has never been the most granite at middleweight. But are there other matchups that Strickland can win? For sure. Can he beat Hamzat? If he survives that first round, he can beat Hamzat. Can he beat DDP? We'll see what happens, man. It's kind of a 50-50 fight in my opinion, but I think that DDP will probably win, but Strickland can surprise me. He is a live dog. He has the potential to actually embarrass DDP in the striking department, because we know DDP striking isn't the most technical looking that we've ever seen. So it's definitely in the realm of possibilities that we see Strickland just go out there and just embarrass and maybe TKO finish DDP. But there's some matchups that I'm worried about. Obviously, as Strickland ages in his career, he will have a slow decline, and maybe we'll see some up-and-comers kind of take it to him. But Strickland right now is the guy to beat, and I think it's going to take somebody really good to beat him. UFC pay-per-view events should be every 2 to 3 months like it was in 2005 to 2009-ish. Now, I entirely disagree with this. Pay-per-views every month is amazing for us as fans. That would be kind of a punishment. If we had a pay-per-view every 2 to 3 months, yes, it would be more of a hype pay-per-view and probably be more stat card because it is so rare nowadays. But I think having it every month or so just makes it so much more fun. It always keeps us having conversations about the next matchup. And I do kind of understand where you're coming from, but my main issue with this is the fact that what if we have the trashiest pay-per-view card of all time? What if the UFC can't string together a really good pay-per-view card and it ends up being very dull, and maybe they do actually end up putting a good pay-per-view card together and that card just ends up being a total decision fest? It's lame. That will make it feel like we waited 2 to 3 months for absolutely nothing. Like we just waited 3 months to watch Bilal Muhammad in every single fight. It would be lame, it would be boring, and it would really ruin how pay-per-view cards would feel, which is every month. We know, like, if we have a really bad pay-per-view card, there's one next month. Maybe there's a stacked fight night next week that can maybe soothe our aches and pains from the last pay-per-view card. But to me, having it every single month just keeps the media talking. It keeps news relevant. It keeps the fights relevant because, let's face it, every champion is going to be less active if we have less pay-per-view cards. More pay-per-view cards means more championship fights. And if every 2 to 3 months, maybe a fighter has to skip out for this pay-per-view card, gets injured, next thing you know, they're out for an entire year because it's only 3-4 pay-per-views a year. There's just too much time in between, and it just promotes inactivity from champions and other fighters. Because if there happens to be a pay-per-view card in their hometown, they're going to sit out and wait to fight in their hometown. It's just how fighters work, and I just don't think the timetables match up well. What the UFC should do, though, is maybe duck $20 from the pay-per-view price, maybe even more than $20, because I don't feel like paying $80 for a pay-per-view anymore. That shit's getting way too expensive, man. That should be the real conversation that we're having right here, not about, extending pay-per-views to be every 2 to 3 months. But good take, I guess. Islam is a better fighter than Khabib and has already beaten better fighters to prove this. I agree wholeheartedly. I think that Islam is a more complete fighter than Khabib. I think overall he is a better fighter than Khabib. I think his resume right now, after he's KO'd Volk in the first round, is better than Khabib's. He has beaten basically the featherweight GOAT twice over. He has beaten Charles Oliveira, who was a very exciting, very good champion at the time. He beat him fairly easily. He has a really good resume. What does Khabib really have right now? What does he have? He has McGregor, okay, never defended a belt. He beat Poirier. Poirier sucks against grapplers. He beat Gaethje, same deal. Poirier and Gaethje never held a belt in their entire career, not at a single point where they considered the best fighter in their division, whereas Volk was, and Oliveira was a champion. And he beat Gaethje, and he also beat Poirier, which kind of supersedes what Khabib did to them because Oliveira beat him. Oliveira beat Gaethje and Poirier. Then Islam made Oliveira look like a unranked fighter, kind of. I hate saying it, man. If we go by strictly MMA math, then Oliveira is a better win than Poirier Gaethje, and Volk is a better win than McGregor because Volk is arguably the featherweight GOAT. And if we go by style-wise, I think Islam has the way better striking out of the two of them. I mean, look at the Volk fight, both of them. His defensive striking was elite, and then he KO'd Volk in the rematch. I mean, bro, Islam is kind of him. As much as I don't like Islam, he has been putting on exciting fights, and he has been one of the more exciting Dagestani fighters in a very long time, and that is saying something because most of them are just grapple hogs, straight up full guard campers. But Islam is a different animal. He's kind of ruining the stereotype for Dagestanis, and I'm learning to appreciate Islam while we have him. Islam Makhachev right now is the lightweight GOAT in my opinion, and if he gets one more win, I think you can't even argue it. He is the lightweight GOAT. Colby Covington may not deserve a title shot, but he is Leon's toughest matchup in the division. Now, I totally agree with you in the first part here. Colby does not deserve a title shot. He has beaten absolutely nobody to deserve it. Beating Jorge Masvidal does not guarantee you a title shot. Sitting out for over a year should not get you a title shot. You should be active. You should be beating the best guys in the division to earn your title shot. You should not be getting it because you have had one in the past. Jorge Masvidal, again, I can't reiterate this enough, is not a deserving excuse to give Colby Covington a title shot. I don't care. It's just, it is what it is at this point, man. Like, we have to have this. I can't cope any longer about it. It's going to happen no matter what I say or what I do. Colby Covington is getting this next title shot, but is he the worst or toughest matchup for Leon Edwards? Yes and no. I think that maybe Usman provided a little bit more toughness to Leon Edwards because Usman had some power. He had something for Leon Edwards to worry about, whereas Colby Covington, let's be honest here, has pillow hands. His striking is not the best. Where Kamaru Usman kind of strived in with the power, Colby Covington definitely lacks that. But what Colby does well that I think Kamaru Usman lacks him is chaining together takedowns. We saw in the rematch between Usman and Leon Edwards, we saw Usman just go for double legs or single legs, but not really chain them together. Once Leon Edwards stuffed the first takedown, Usman was pretty much done. Colby Covington will be an entirely different story. I think if he does fail a takedown on his first shot, he'll go for like a single leg or transition to a trip or something like that. He'll find ways to chain takedowns together to find a way to get Leon Edwards down, which does make him a tough matchup. But I think if Leon is not really scared about the striking, if he's not worried about getting chinned by Colby Covington, I think his takedown defense will be more suited to beat a guy like Colby Covington. If Colby had some sort of power threat on the feet, then I think he would be more successful, and I would probably pick him to beat Leon Edwards. But since he has no power on the feet, man, I just can't pick him to beat Leon Edwards. Is he Leon Edwards' toughest matchup? It's close. I don't really know. If he's not one, he's definitely two. So I'm kind of half agreeing with you here and kind of half not. We'll see. I think that Leon Edwards is probably going to beat him fairly comfortably when their fight happens in the next couple weeks, but we'll see. Brian Ortega is unironically a nightmare matchup for Sterling. Strong striker, great BJJ, iron chin, relentless forward pressure, everything to beat Aljo. Now, I do think that Ortega is a very bad matchup. And I do kind of agree here, honestly. I mean, Ortega has a very good chin, so you won't get chinned by Aljo. Not to say that Aljo has any power, But if Aljo was to land something, it probably wouldn't KO Ortega. But I do think the BJJ is the biggest part of this. I think Ortega being obviously the bigger man, he'll be probably noticeably taller and a bit larger than Aljo if they do happen to fight each other, if it ever happens in the future. But I think Ortega having that really, I mean, high-level jiu-jitsu background really puts a hamper on Aljamain Sterling. Sterling's bread and butter at bantamweight was going for a takedown, failing it, and in the scramble, getting your back and locking in his body triangle. Against Ortega, he probably won't have as much success because Ortega's probably going to stuff his takedowns and then find a way to get that body triangle because he has really good jiu-jitsu. And you're definitely right. Ortega will take shots. He will keep pushing forward, and that is a recipe to beat Aljo. Aljo will not like being pressured backwards and being on the back foot. He's more of a guy who likes to come at you. It's the way he beat Corey Sandhagen. It's how he beat Petr Yan, was pressuring forward, just throwing shots out there, and then getting into a scramble with them and getting their back and just having the body triangle locked in for the rest of the round. With Brian Ortega, that is probably the least effective style to implement against him. I think Ortega would win that. If they were to fight tomorrow, I would probably pick Brian Ortega. There shouldn't be a fight night main event with a fighter outside of the top 8 like the upcoming Pyfer and Hermansson. I couldn't agree more. I think these main events, these fight night main events need to have some spice to them, man. I'm tired of watching number 10 and number 12 go at it. I'm tired of watching these unranked guys and one guy who is ranked fight each other. It just gets a bit not motivating. You know what I mean? Like, I do love these matchups. I love watching some of these lower ranked guys or guys who are at the very high end of the top 15 go at it. But should they be a main event? Probably not. They really shouldn't be. In all honesty, a fight night main event should be a title elimination bout or a number 1 contenders matchup, or it should be somebody in the top 5. If I were to have my way, I would have it this way, but we can't get what we want as fans. You know, the UFC does struggle to schedule matchups, and there are issues and people pulling out and not accepting fights, and then who's active and who's not active, who's out doing this, who wants to go on vacation for the holidays, who wants to, like, there's too many factors to schedule a good fight night card every single week. So I do understand that aspect from the UFC, but I think we need to start taking these fight night main events more seriously. And the UFC kind of has recently, because they're booking these women championship fights as fight night main events, and I couldn't appreciate them more for that. It actually gets these women's fights promoted more instead of people just skipping it on the pay-per-view main event or just not buying it entirely because it is the pay-per-view main event. But that is all that I have for you guys today. I appreciate everyone who submitted their hot take into my community post. It means so much to me. I'll be doing the same thing this Thursday, so check out that post when it comes out in the morning. Submit your hot take and you'll probably be in the video. So again, thank you guys. I'm out of here. Like, subscribe, hit that bell icon for notifications, and peace.